All right, looking forward to that. Meanwhile, let's look forward to the weekend. What happens, D. Wood, if the Bengals lose to the Jets and fall to 0-3?
It's over. It's done. When I said it in the last block, there's only been one team in the last 20 years who've been in the playoffs. One. You fall 0-3, that's big. You're basically going fishing after the season's finished.
The one thing they may have going for them is the division is off to a slow start, but I hear you. Next, Nico, what if Baker Mayfield loses and he goes to 0-3?
They'll be right where I thought they were going to be, 0-3 before the season started. Everyone's, Baker's going to take this team to the playoffs. What? I was there in training camp watching them play the Patriots. No, they're not going to the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're 0-3.
Ooh, good call.
Bart Scott, let's go the other side. Let's be positive for a minute. What happens if the Giants beat the Cowboys and get to 3-0?
They will march up Fifth Avenue. You know, we can't handle success around here. We're going to have a grand party. Danny Dimes, Dave Ball, Wink Martindale, they're going to be, they might be immortalized. They might put a statue up for them if the Giants go 0-3. They go 3-0.
I'll say this, I hope they march down Fifth Avenue because the traffic goes south on that and it would be confusing if they're going the other way. In the meantime, the Cowboys may have some good news, and it's sneaky big news. Wide receiver Michael Gallup is gearing up to make his season debut this Monday in that game against the Giants. Gallup is coming back from a torn ACL. He will take full reps this week in practice, so he may come back. Now, Diana, we began the show with your bold prediction that the Giants are going to win. The conversations are going to have to change. Every year there are teams that come along and are just way better than we expected them to be. If the Giants win Monday night, it's going to be impossible not to say that of them. Give us your thoughts on this game as they prepare to host Dallas on Monday night.
Well, obviously, lately I've been getting very little sleep with all these bold predictions that the New York teams are going to be winning all of September. But look, the thing is, there's some reality to this, right? Because I've already seen a change in this Giants team from top to bottom with Joe Shane at GM, Brian Daboll. I can't say enough about the impact that they've had on these players. I talked to Leonard Williams last week. Just give me a quick reason why Daboll's making you guys better. He said he holds us accountable, but this is the loosest I've ever played in my career. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. He's like, you don't understand how that helps us play better as a team when we're not scared to make the mistake, because then we're just leaning on our ability, our knowledge, our preparation. So collectively, this team is finding ways to win. And when I spoke to Coach Daboll about it, he says it's all about the preparation that they're doing during the week in the meeting rooms at practice. It wasn't a pat on the back like, look, I'm leading this team the right way. He just says their practices have been premier all of September, and he says he's seen the results on Sunday.
All right, so the Giants off to a surprisingly good start. Now, the one thing that I sometimes hear from people is we don't talk enough about the Cowboys on this show. So let's dive a little bit into their side of this for a moment here. And I'm not the kind of person who likes to say I told you so. I'm the kind of person who loves to say I told you so. So, D. Wood, when the world was burying the Cowboys last week and you were giving them a big thumbs down, I was saying to everybody, slow down. They're not nearly as bad as we are painting them to be. They just need to tread water. How do you feel about the Dallas Cowboys now after a win that surprised a lot of people against Cincinnati?
First of all, I'm eating crow right now. I mean, I was the one, parading saying that the Dallas Cowboys are done, and clearly that's not the case. I think when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, the fact that I think they're playing complementary football. Like, that's what when I watch them, that's what they're doing. Defensively, they're getting after people. Mm-hmm. Michael Parsons, I said many times, Michael Parsons to me is like the closest thing to LT that we're seeing today in today's game. Mm-hmm. He's that type of force on the defensive side of the football. And I think Cooper Rush and company is doing enough. They don't have to be, they don't have to be jerking out. They're just doing enough. Enough complementary football can win you football games. And I think against the New York Giants, I think Dallas Cowboys can pull it out again.
Bart looks skeptical. Now, maybe that's just your natural expression, but you look skeptical to me about my Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, because we have to consider the opponent. I mean, they just went against a team that we think is reeling, that think that they can go 0-3 as
We
well.
think they're reeling because the Cowboys beat them. The Bengals should have beaten the Steelers week 1 easily, and they were in the Super Bowl their game before that. So let's not talk about them like they just beat nobody, and they did it without their starting quarterback.
They faced a team last week that's trying to find their identity, right? Like I say all the time, success isn't owned, it's leased, and rent's due every single day. And right now, the Bengals aren't paying their rent. But, we talk talking about in a couple of weeks, they got to play the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have to play the defending Super Bowl champions. If they're able to be above 500 after then maybe I'll buy a little stock in the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm not ready to buy stock in them right now. I mean, if they come back and they lose on Monday night in a hostile environment in MetLife Stadium, I think we go right back to the narrative that, hey, maybe next year is the year. And you look at that schedule, that Lions game isn't going to be an easy win anymore. So you can take that 65% and erase that one. But you look at the Rams and the Eagles, and if they lose to the Giants, then that's a recipe for, okay, let's get ready for the draft.
Well, look, the bottom line of it, the other side of that, Nico, is if they win two of those games before they get Dak back, and between the Giants, the Lions, the Bears, and the Commanders, you can find 2 wins on that schedule. They could be right there when these teams come back. So I asked everyone for their picks. I haven't seen them yet. Let's see what everybody thinks about Monday night. Go ahead, Chrissy, put them up there. Ooh, we got a lot. Only D. Wood is with me on the Cowboys pick this week. Nico, give me a thought.
You look at New York right now, they're playing with a lot of confidence, and how do you slow down a pass rush? You run the football. And I think New York has that ability to run the football. They have a big-time running back, strong, physical, playing with a chip on his shoulder, confident, a head coach that has that whole team playing at a high level, playing fast. So I'm going with New York, even though a whole region where I live is not happy with that pick.
Well, I will say this. I mean, in New York right now, they're excited about the Giants and they're excited about the Jets, but all that is getting buried under what? Aaron Judge. Did you see it last night?
Right.
Here we go. Really struggling. The game here is panic or patience. D. Wood, the Las Vegas Raiders, winless. Panic or patience?
Panic. I'm panic. Listen, when you talk about the Raiders, a couple things here. Number one, they don't know how to finish games. And then number two, this is a heavily penalized team. Like, you can't expect in the division that you're playing in and the conference that you're in that you're going to be able to win football games that way. They got to get those things straightened out fast.
Raiders committing penalties. At least we know there's something in life we can count on. Nico, the Colts have been awful. Panic or patience?
Panic. I'm panicked. Listen, what happened to the Colts? We thought Matt Ryan was the answer. We thought that was going to be the answer for them to win the division. Then they tie week 1, and then they don't score a point week 2 against the Jaguars? Panic. I'm panicked.
Yes.
I'm in Indiana. I'm panicked.
If he's the answer, I don't want to know what the question was. Bart, Cincinnati Bengals, panic or patience?
Panic. Listen, they invested heavily in that offensive line, and they are still getting pressure on Joe Burrow at a record pace. 13 sacks already. He's burping the baby a little bit too much. A little bit of that is on him. He's a victim of his own success. When you go to the Super Bowl, you get the attention of defensive coordinators. They have figured out the Da Vinci Code of how to stop Macaulay Culkin. He's home alone, Greeny.
He does look a little like him. Anyway, here's the good news. We actually asked Joe Burrow the same question, panic or patience. Here's what he said.
Everyone is frustrated, but like I said, we're not panicking. 2 games in, we got 15 games left. So I'll just take a deep breath and relax. We're gonna be fine. We're not worried about it.
Okay. That's the right thing for him to say in front of everybody up there. He knows how to play that game. Then we get on the field and there have been troubles. Diana, what are you hearing?
Yeah, so I got this game on Sunday at MetLife Stadium, actually, right? So you got this 0-2 Bengals team, which we see the quarterback getting hit at record numbers. If this continues, he's going to get sacked over 100 times by the end of the season. So they're going to make some changes. They got to add to the run game. That's where you're really going to start to see a little bit of a difference. Look, you don't have to be an expert to know that Joe Burrow's got to get the ball out a little bit faster. But it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to use tight ends and running backs in the protection here to give some relief there, because guys, we know they've got 4 different offensive linemen that are starting this year, and they're still trying to figure it out, and we're just watching it with our own eyes, and they're going up against this Jets defense that they are going to want to eat on Sunday against them, and I can tell you they've got a game plan in place ready to take advantage of it.
All right, we will see how they do. But, Bart, you and I are about to do something. We're going to go a little bit next level here, because it is all well and good for everyone to watch these games and say, oh, Joe Burrow's getting sacked a lot. Obviously, the offensive line is playing badly. Well, hold everything. There's actually more to the story. If you look at the win rate of the blocking, if you look at how the offensive line are actually performing, it's basically average. It's exactly the same as Patrick Mahomes' offensive line is performing. Mahomes has been sacked once. Burrow has been sacked 13 times. Bart, some of this is on the quarterback himself.
A lot of this is on the quarterback. I mean, I think he's trying to go to the well too often. He's trying to get the big play. He's featuring Jamar Chase too much, right? We saw in that graphic that Jamar Chase has 25 targets and everybody else has 63. You have to understand, when you go to the Super Bowl, they watch the film about how you got defended in the Super Bowl, especially when you lose. They're playing cover 2. So, Diana, you were spot on when you talk about it has to be Hayden Hurst and it has to be Mixon. That's where the offense has to go because they're stopping you with a 7-man box. And now they're getting hands at the line of scrimmage, and you have 7 people in coverage. So if you keep the tight end in, if you keep the running back in, that's 3 people in a route with 7 people, defending the pass. That's going to make you hold on to the ball, and eventually the protection is always going to break down. So they have to run the ball in the light box. They have to be patient, the same way that Patrick Mahomes had to be patient last year when teams were doing it. And what did he do? It was quick screens. It was featuring the back and option routes, and also the tight end up the middle of the field. That's how you defeat cover 2. That's what they're going to have to do if they want to have some success. Can he be patient? I don't know.
And the point, D-Wood, is sometimes we look at sacks and immediately say that's an offensive line statistic, but it's really not necessarily true. Frequently, it's a quarterback statistic as well. Is that the case from what you're looking at? What are you seeing in that struggle in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to let the offensive line off the hook because there's been some issues there, but Bart is absolutely right. It is on the quarterback. It's not. Protection is more than just offensive line. It's receivers getting open. It's the quarterback getting the ball out of his hand. And Joe Burrow is holding on the ball, on to the ball too much, and that's creating these sacks, these pressures. And guess what? Joe Burrow can sit up there in the press conference and say, we're fine, we're everything a little bit. You fall to 0-3. There's been only one team in the last 20 years to make the postseason after going 0-3. Better have some fire coming into MetLife.
Defensively, when we would go against a team and the quarterback was watching the rush, we knew we had him. And we knew we had when the quarterback starts to look at the rush and isn't evaluating the field, that's when there's problems. So if you look at some of these plays, he's looking down the field, then he's looking at the rush in front of him and trying to find a spot to jump around, then looking down the field. That's too long. It takes too much time. And you also have to understand, Joe Burrow started his career with an ACL tear being hit in the pocket.
Yeah.
Then he comes back, they have a great season, and then now he's getting hit again too much. So you look at the amount of hits that he's taken, you start to become a little shell-shocked, and you speed up your timing with, I need to get the ball out, Well, then you start forcing balls where they shouldn't be, and you start pushing it to one player because you're more confident in that guy, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. They have to win this game. They have to, especially in the AFC. If they go 0-3,
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
You add to all of those all the time he missed in training camp with the appendix. It's a tough start for Cincinnati.